goodness, it's a good one. Look at this, folks. We got here first thing in the morning. Sun's coming up. That's a nice fish, folks. Oh, it's a nice, beautiful smallmouth bass. Oh, and there's another one with him. Another one with him. Oh my goodness, look at that. Oh, get in here. Get in here. Get in here. Come on. Oh, look at that fish. First thing in the morning, just showed up. Look at that, folks. Look at the size of that smallmouth. Look how beautiful that fish is. Look, it's got a crooked tail on it. That fish has got a weird body on it. Look at that. It's living, but it looks like it's been, like it's just deformed right there or something. That is crazy. It's a beautiful smallmouth. Look at that, beautiful fish. Get it back in the water. Folks, today, we're here early in the morning. Beautiful morning out this morning at one of my favorite all-time lakes. Fished a lot of tournaments here when I was a kid. And actually, I haven't been on the lake for 3 or 4 years. And we're at Willow Springs. Built in 1967, this lake was built for the recreational fishermen by Game and Fish. It's a 158-acre lake, and it's clear water, which is one of my favorite kinds of water, and we're here in June. And what makes this so special is that fish hasn't even spawned yet. The water temperature here is about 60 degrees. Right about then is when these fish start to spawn. We have largemouth and smallmouth in this lake. And I'll tell you what, this is a lot of fun, this lake is. We're the first boat out. There's actually somebody pulling in now to go fishing. You're gonna see a lot of trout fishermen on this lake. If you love to come up to the White Mountains to trout fish, it's an awesome lake to come to. And like I said, I don't get here very often. I'm usually fishing the lower lakes, but our bass club's been coming here since the 80s, fishing little derbies for bass and things like that. And I've had a lot of success on this lake. So we're gonna show you Willow Springs today, folks. I know we've had a lot of people emailing me about, what about Willow Springs? What about Willow Springs up on the rim? Well, today is your day. We're gonna show it to you today. That's our first fish. Caught it off a point on the main lake. I know this lake very well. I have my graph on. The lake is plumb full. We've had a lot of water this year. That was a fun fish to catch, and it had a big one following it. A big fish following it. And all I'm doing is throwing a jerkbait right now. And jerkbaits are really good for smallmouth. You know, first thing in the morning, even though we don't have any wind, we have low light. And all I'm doing is just throwing it out there, pop, pop, pause, pop, pop, pause. And it's a suspending jerkbait, little chartreuse shad. Nothing like catching a fish right off the bat, folks. That's the way to start our day. We'll see what we can't do. That was close to a 3-pound smallmouth. That was beautiful. Oh, there's one. There's one. Little guy. But he was there. Lots of these guys we'll probably catch today. Look at that. Well, you go from hero to zero real quick. Oh, got a good one there, son. We got a good one there. That's a largemouth. Got us in a little bit of largemouth territory there. Come on. You know, all I did was throw, a lot of times you can throw a little 4-inch Senko. Get in here. Get in here. Gotcha. Little 4-inch Senko in there. It's a nice largemouth. See, there's some largemouth in here. Yeah. What I love about this lake is you can get back here where there's some trees and fish for some of these largemouth. So out on the main lakes where you'll look for the smallies, it seems, and then back here you'll see all these flooded trees. And back in here you can find some of the largemouth. It's a lot of fun to fish this lake because you'll find areas where there's trees like this. You go out there where you have the real shallow, flat, rocky areas for the smallmouth. Then if you go around the other bend, which we'll show you soon, there's usually a lot of grass in those areas. And largemouth and smallmouth are in that area too. But this lake has a lot to offer. But you know, when you're fishing these types of lakes, like Willow Springs up here, we don't have shad. I've mentioned that before. You gotta throw crawdad type stuff, trout type stuff, frogs. You can get away with stuff like that. You know, I like a lot of weightless stuff. We're in shallow. The fish are always shallow this time of year. That fish came out of 3 foot of water. So, you know, we're just fishing around the wood. You got to just pick the wood apart, you know, just pick it apart. And there's points and stuff that you can see that come out. This is kind of a little point that comes out and then goes back in. I'm kind of looking to see if anything's shallow, but I got to throw out to the wood. Now, what's so fun about this lake too, coming out here fishing it, is, you know, all our White Mountain lakes, you know, I'm able to put my big bass boat on. You can't use the big motor. It's a 10-horse motor only, but the lake is small enough where you can go around with your trolling motor, you know, and pick it apart that way and still be in your bass boat. But you definitely save gas. You don't have to go anywhere as far as using the big motor, you know. And I launch and load my boat with the trolling motor. It takes a little practice, a little bit to get the boat up on the trailer. Obviously, you bring the trailer down and then you take your boat out, you put your trolling motor on high and just point your boat straight to the trailer, and before you get to the trailer, I lift the trolling motor up, it scoots it right up on there, and then you've got another foot or so you crank up with your winch. But in saying that, it's a lot of fun. And you know, like I said, our Bass Club members all use our bass boats and things like that. You just can't fire the big motor, which is kind of nice anyways. Early in the morning, I'm not into the motor thing anymore up here because the lakes are so small. It makes it nice and quiet and peaceful. You can hear everything, you know, the birds and nature and all that stuff. I just love it that way. But it kind of almost gets aggravating when somebody comes out with a gas motor, you know, because it's so beautiful. But you'll have a lot of fun. When I'm talking about throwing these weightless baits that we're throwing, like the Senko and stuff, little 4-inch. 4-inch is my favorite. You can go with the 4-inch or the 3-inch. Anything weightless like a lizard or like I said, a little Sticko or Senko. But I like to throw it on a 2-aught, you know, a little 2-aught wide gap hook. You can see how I've got it hooked up here. And you just tie the hook on, basically. And you want to use 10 to 12 pound test line, and then just put the head of the bait right there where it keeps and make it weedless. That's all you do. And you just let it float down. Now, the reason why I'm not using a sinker at all is because I'm fishing 0 to 5 foot of water normally, you know, in these lakes. So, and you're around a lot of weeds. So it's fun to throw up in the pockets of the weeds, or a lot of times I can drag this bait across the top of the weeds or across the top of the junk and let it fall in the pockets. And sometimes they'll come out and blast it like a frog. And so you can have a lot of fun doing that. Throw it on a spinning outfit, obviously, my Taipan Elite Series rod, and it's a medium action rod. You need something about 7.2, and my Ardent spinning reel, but I like the braid. You know, I'm using a 20-pound test braid line, and then I'll tie on that fluorocarbon leader. I like the braid because it doesn't twist your line. Plus, you get a lot better flow of your cast and everything. It's a lot more fun, I think, throwing the braid. Plus, you know, you not only eliminate the line twist, but you don't go through so much line because braid lasts so long. So you're only tying on a leader every so often. So it works out pretty good. And the other thing that works really good in here, believe it or not, and you don't want to overlook it's the drop shot. It works really good in here. There you go. Those are the kind that come to Willow Springs. If you can see, the belly on that baby they're just now getting ready to move up and spawn. Beautiful fish. We'll let it go. You know, we take a lot of laps around this lake at times, and I've taken one lap around a day, but I want to go over a few techniques that I really love on this lake. Number one, of course, is the jerkbait. You saw us throwing it today. A little suspending jerkbait, chartreuse shad color, is awesome to throw. You'll want to throw something like that. And I'll tell you what, early in the morning or when the wind starts blowing, you'll catch a lot of smallmouth on that, on the main lake. It's a lot of fun to throw. One of my other favorite techniques, obviously, is the drop shot. Now, a lot of times I'll throw like the oxblood colored worms, but don't forget that, you know, the light pinks or the purples work really well in here as well, and you'll catch a lot of fish on those. That slim shot is really awesome bait. In the pink color, or the green pumpkin is another great color for drop shotting. You can't beat a drop shot out here, you really can't. And of course the spinnerbait. Now when it comes to the spinnerbait, this water's really clear. So I like, you know, a lot of times you can throw the gold and the silver blades, but I like the double silver willow leaf blades. White bait's fine. A little white and chartreuse doesn't hurt anything. If you like a little white and chartreuse, that's a good color bait. Go with a 1/4 ounce. On this lake, it's really, really shallow. So going with a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce where you're fishing, because you're fishing on a lot of flats. That way the bait, you can slow roll it and the bait doesn't drag on the bottom, and you can really catch those fish. It's a lot of fun, and you'll catch a lot of fish on that. Remember, when you're throwing a spinnerbait, it doesn't matter where you're at. 17-pound test line, 15, 17-pound test line minimum on that spinnerbait. It's an awesome deal. On that jerkbait, it was a 12-pound test line, okay? 10 or 12 works good on that. Of course, I use a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader with my drop shot. And then, my all-time favorite, obviously, is the Senko. In this lake, it really works good at times, just weightless. Anything weightless, you could do the Senko or even a weightless lizard. We used to throw, back in the day, these air bubble lizards. You can't hardly find them anymore, and they worked really good. Anything 4 inches, a 4-inch bait is awesome. 4 or 3-inch bait is awesome in this lake. You'll catch a lot of fish on it. Now I'm gonna tell you, I downsize my line a lot on this clear water. I'll throw 10-pound, 8-pound line on this water. It's just, this body of water, these fish are real finicky. They've seen a lot of fish, or a lot of fishermen, and this lake gets a lot of pressure. So you wanna go with a lighter line, and that way you might get more bites that way. So those are the few techniques that I like. Now, one other bait that I really like is a jig. You know, if you're out here, throw the green pumpkin jigs, maybe something with a little chartreuse in it. Jigs are fine. You know, a 3/8 ounce, 1/2 ounce jig is really good if you want to get out and stretch out a little bit deeper water. But right now these fish are moving up. They actually haven't really even moved up. We went around and didn't see a whole lot of fish up. So I'm guessing they're just starting to move up. We caught a big old fat 5-pounder, you know, throwing out there. But it really, you know, in all honesty, they just haven't spawned yet. So they're just getting ready to move up. There's a lot of females cruising, but I don't see a lot of males up yet. It's gonna happen. By the time this show airs, it's probably gonna be on. So anyways, that's Willow Springs for you right there. Those are the baits I like, and I'll have them loaded on my deck when I have tournaments here, and those are the techniques that I throw. You just gotta slow down and take lots of laps around this area, around this lake. Find the areas you like. The smallmouth tend to like the points, and the largemouth tend to like the trees, so in the grass. So if you get up in those areas, you'll catch a lot of fish and you'll have a lot of fun. And don't overlook the frog during midsummer. When the grass gets really thick, these fish will be 6 inches in the grass. They'll be right up under it, and you'll catch some frogfish. But that's Willow Springs, and it's a beautiful lake. Hey folks, for my tip of the week, one thing that's really important is I love throwing spinnerbaits on this lake. They work well at certain times of the year. But one little tip that I'm gonna tell you about is really key to this lake. We have smallmouth and largemouth. So when we go back in the trees, a lot of you know that I love to throw a little grub trailer on the back of my spinnerbait for those big largemouth. But when you come out to the main lake, take the grub trailer off and throw the spinnerbait without the grub trailer. It seems like the smallmouth like it without the trailer. So something to think about when you're out here spinnerbaiting. When the wind starts picking up, it's a good time to start doing it. But when you get back in those trees, put the grub trailer on for those big largemouth, and when you get out here on the main lake, pull the grub trailer off, you'll catch a lot more smallmouth that way. That's my tip of the week. Got him. Oh, we got him. We got that fish on that slim shot. He went up there and got that slim shot. The perfect bait for these fish in here. Let me tell you, that Arizona custom bait slim shot on a drop shot for smallmouth. Look at this smallmouth. Look at that. Huh? Little white mountain bass. That's what I'm talking about. Smallmouth. That's beautiful. Let's throw him back. Get him back on the bed. You know, one of my favorite things to do is drop shot these smallies, and I found a little cool bait called the Slim Shot, made by Arizona Custom Baits. And it's a little pink color. I love it. The trout in here, you know, the little trout are pink, and they throw off them colors. And I'll tell you what, smallmouth can't resist that bait right there. Let me tell you. Throw it right up in there and they just slam it. It makes for a lot of fun, and it's a perfect drop shot bait. One thing really important to remember about drop shotting though for these fish when they're on beds or they're up shallow like that is making your leader really short. You know, I like to use about 7 inches, 6 inches, something like that, or even shorter, sometimes even 3 inches, because you're putting it right down there on the bed. But you'll catch a lot of smallies on this. You know, these banks here at Willow Springs are they come way out here. They're really flat, they come way out here. It's not like they have a quick drop off. I'm way out here, I can see in the water. I'm only in about 3 foot of water. These fish are just kind of hanging out here on beds, just kind of sitting around. And there's some good smallies in this lake, some great largemouth, but you just got to pick the right time of year, you know. In the dead heat of summer, when this place really gets pressured, when the kids get out of school and it gets really pressured, it gets a lot tougher. So it's something to think about when you're out fishing. Well, I'll tell you what, we've had a lot of fun today on Willow Springs. Got out here in the morning, took a lap around just to see what was going on. And believe it or not, I got a little bass club tournament coming up here in a couple weeks. So I just want to take a quick peek at the lake anyway. Thanks for joining us on the show. Come up and try some of these lakes when it gets real hot down in your area. And I'll tell you what, we've got some beautiful lakes up here, but Willow Springs, a good lake and a great trout lake as well. So come on up and enjoy it and have fun fishing. Till next time, we'll see you on the water. I'm Johnny Johnson. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.